Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. And welcome back. I hope that your rest was outstanding and you are returning ready to get into it because we got some serious business to attend to today. We're going to start out with a quick preview on what's coming up, then we'll zoom in for further detail. But denaturalization, this idea that you can strip someone's citizenship away from them if they fraudulently went through the naturalization process, is now the topic du jour. And we'll get into it because we've got this post from Zoran Kwame Mamdani, the communist out of New York. Well, the president was asked a question about him today during his trip down to Alligator Alcatraz, commented on it. Mamdani came back and responded and said, "We're not going to accept this intimidation anymore. And we're going to fight back." And of course, the question is, this dude became a citizen like 6 months ago, 6 years ago, whatever it was. And now is going to come in and tell us that capitalism's bad, billionaires are bad, we should have stores run by the government, and they should buy a property to create communes there in New York City. Anyways, he's out, and we're asking this question that is brought up based on this law, 8 U.S. Code 1451, Revocation of Naturalization. It's a law, it's a real thing. And the question is, what's going to happen with the DOJ and guys like Mamdani, who have, according to Congresspeople, submitted and alleged support for terroristic groups like Hamas? So we've got that. Then we've got the DOJ, which unleashed their new policy on this, on denaturalization. It's not a big one. We'll go through it. All civil division employees heed this memo from the DOJ. They're going to do a couple things. One, end anti-Semitism, okay. Combat discrimination, all right. And then end and prioritize denaturalization. That sounds pretty good. All right, so we'll read through that. We'll see what the policy is, what they're going to be focusing on, and then get some reaction to a lot of this. Because Mamdani is saying they want to buy up government property now, or buy a property that'll be run by the government-run housing, because they already do such a good job of that. And we also have a new crazy thing that's happening. This is another, I guess, a liberal person over on TikTok. It's a wild one that we'll listen to. She says that we're throwing people out of airplanes, which I don't think we are, but we're going to have to break that down. So we'll talk about that. Then we got some more clips of Trump, all in the first segment. Then we're transitioning to our favorite, Chuck Grassley, man, the great senator from Iowa. And he dropped what he calls is a bombshell today. You can see he put this over on his website. Bombshell report from Chuck Grassley showing that the FBI covered up Chinese election interference. Yeah. So we'll read through the emails because they got dropped. We got 47 pages of them. And here's what they are. Lots of redactions here, but the FBI covered up a rigged election, our own FBI. And the liberals are screaming about ICE removing invaders from our country. Got it. So then we'll talk about China, because this individual right here has now been arrested, and he is from China. And what the problem was with this fella is that he was on our naval bases collecting intelligence about our naval service members in bases. And I've got his criminal complaint here pulled up along with his co-conspirator communist called Liren Lai, or Ryan Lai, all charged by federal prosecutors in California and Oregon. So we'll go through that. We got some reaction here. Lots of clips of Trump. FBI says that they just took a major healthcare fraud scandal down. We've got Dan Bongino with updates. Trump was on Air Force One. And the polls are looking pretty dang good for your favorite president. And we happen to like what he's doing. It's true. So we've got a great stream planned ahead, my friends. It's a beautiful Tuesday. Hopefully your week is unfolding brilliantly and you're accomplishing all the things you set your mind to. We're also looking at the verdict for Diddy. Apparently that's coming out right now. Looks like they're having a little bit of a hang up on the first count. And deliberations are going to resume tomorrow, is what CNN is reporting. So if you're following that, CNN's reporting deliberations to resume tomorrow morning after the jury reaches a partial verdict. So they've got a decision on counts 2 through 5, I believe it is. And I think it's probably going to be guilty, no? If they've got those already decided. How could somebody want to vote guilty on the first one and then acquit him on all the other lesser charges ultimately? It doesn't make any sense to me. I think that it's probably going to be guilty on the 2 through 5, and maybe they'll hang on the first one or acquit him on the RICO charge. All right. Anyways, so that's happening. My friends, we had a great members only stream this morning. We talked about a lot of good things. We really love our members and appreciate our members. We have members only streams in the morning. We do Saturday streams. We do after parties. We have a great members only community. Get to know each other a little bit better, connect more deeply at the morning streams. We'd love to have you come join us. You can sign up watchingthewatchers.locals.com or click join on YouTube, and we'll see you in the after party and in the members only stream tomorrow morning. We're excited. All right, so keeping our eye on anything else that's popping up, but we've got a lot of business to attend to here today. So let's get into it. Starting with denaturalization and this fella right here. The New York Communist is battling back against President Trump, now trying to make him the center of his campaign because that's all the Democrats can really do is smash on Trump. But this guy's a little bit different. He has a little bit of a twist to his liberal communism, which is the fact that he's openly a communist. The others try to hide it, but not him. Now, he posted this. He's responding to a statement from the president who said this. We'll listen to it in a minute. But what we're talking about today is denaturalization, because the DOJ has now caught wind of this new term thanks to the representative called Andy Ogles, who sent in a memo, a letter to Pam Bondi saying, can you please investigate Zoran? Seems like he might be in violation of this law. 8 U.S. Code 1451, Revocation of Naturalization. Saying, you know, the U.S. attorneys, if there is an affidavit with good cause, they may bring a suit against a naturalized citizen to set aside the order that admitted the person, right, and cancel the certificate of naturalization on the grounds that they were illegally procured or procured by concealment of a material fact or willful misrepresentation. And such revocation and setting aside this citizenship and canceling is effective as of the original date of the order and the certificate. There are, of course, limitations to this, but provided that the refusal on the part of the naturalized citizen within a period of 10 years following his naturalization to testify as a witness in any proceedings where he's been convicted for recusal, willful misrepresentation, and more. And so there's a law on the books that can be invoked. The question, of course, what is the DOJ going to do with that law? And what are they going to prioritize when it comes to denaturalization? Because Andy Ogles, another Republican representative, said that Mamdani is a sympathizer of Hamas, actually wrote rap songs for these dudes, trying to get them out of custody and more. And that was not properly disclosed during his naturalization proceedings. So here is Zoran responding to President Trump. We'll listen to Trump's original statement in the first place. But here's what Mamdani said. He says, you know, the president of the United States just threatened to have me arrested, stripped of my citizenship, and put in a detention camp and deported. Not because I've broken any law. Actually, yeah, that is the argument. The argument is that you actually did break the law. It's called 8 U.S. Code 1451. That's the argument, just to be clear. So it's not recklessness, lawlessness. It's you broke the law by failing to disclose the fact that you're a communist and you hate capitalism and you don't support the Constitution at all. And you didn't explain that when you were asked explicitly to disclose that material and your support for foreign terrorist organizations and other things. So that's actually the argument, is that you actually did break the law. So you're a liar. Thank you for that. Now, not because I have broken a law. Yes, you did. But because I refuse to let ICE terrorize our city, which is a perversion of the language. ICE is enforcing the law. Are you kidding? They're there to enforce federal law, not terrorizing anybody. We're living in bizarro land in Mamdani's mind. Now, his statements don't just represent an attack on our democracy, but an attempt to send a message to every New Yorker who refuses to hide in the shadows. If you speak up, they will come for you. Well, if you're an illegal alien or someone who lied on their naturalization, yeah, maybe they will. We will not accept this imitation law. That Trump included praise for Eric Adams in his authoritarian threats is unsurprising, but highlights the urgency of bringing an end to this mayor's time in City Hall. At the very moment when MAGA Republicans are attempting to destroy the social safety net, kick millions of New Yorkers off healthcare and more, Eric Adams is echoing hate, and voters will reject it. All right, so he's responding to what Trump said earlier today. Here is the president.
Mr. President, your beloved New York City may well be led by a communist soon, Zorhan Mandami, who in his nomination speech said he will defy ICE and will not allow ICE to arrest criminal aliens in New York City. Your message to communist Zorhan Mandami?
Well, then we'll have to arrest him. Look, we don't need a communist in this country, but if we have one, I'm going to be watching over him very carefully on behalf of the nation. We send him money. We send him all the things that he needs to run a government. And by the way, they get about 3 times what you get, Ron. If you look at the per capita, Florida gets 1/3 of what New York gets in terms of the numbers. Why don't you give us those numbers?
Yeah, well,
because that's what we should send him.
Yeah, well, like sometimes people say Florida gets more because they count Social Security recipients, but that's not money to the state. Those are seniors that live here. If they moved to North Carolina, you could count it there. So it has no interaction with the state government. They get more on the city and state governments than we get.
Right, substantially. We're going to be watching that very carefully, and a lot of people are saying he's here illegally. We're going to look at everything, and ideally. He's going to turn out to be much less than a communist. But right now, he's a communist. That's not a socialist.
Yeah, it's true.
I've always said, we will not have socialism in this country. In the speeches, I said, well, what? They skipped socialism. And you got a lot of them like that. And you see AOC, she's out there with her, bad IQ. She's out there ranting and raving about how wonderful he is. And look, so far he's winning. He still has a race to win, but so far he's winning, and he has an advantage as a Democrat in New York City. I was there a long time ago, and it was a long time since a Republican won the city, but you would think that a Republican would be able to win. Or you have a good independent running, Mayor Adams, who's a very good person. I helped him out a little bit. He had a problem, and he was unfairly hurt over this question. He made a statement to the effect that this is terrible. New York City can't have all these immigrants come in, and like he was indicted the following day. And I said, that was a phony indictment, and it was a phony indictment. That was a Biden indictment. I said, don't feel bad. I got indicted 5 times every time you opened your mouth. That was a bad group. That was a very dangerous group, I will tell you. These were not nice people. That was the only thing they could do. They had no policy. They had no skill. They had no anything. But they were very good at that. They were vicious, vicious, horrible people. Thank you very much.
All right, so shout out to Benny Johnson for asking that question. If you couldn't tell, that was sounding like Benny. And so he was there today. And Trump was there today, obviously talking about Mamdani. That's what he was responding to. And Trump is invoking this law, right? People are asking, is he here legally? Did he violate the law? Why should you be able to violate immigration and naturalization law and contracts where any other contract, if you're fraudulent in executing, the contract is breached and you don't get to enjoy the benefits of that agreement? Happens everywhere in America, apparently, unless it involves immigration, because immigrants, so-called, whether they're illegal or not, get ultra privileged, right? In LA, they won't even hand you off. You commit a crime in LA, a felony, they're like, we're gonna let you go. We're not gonna give you to ICE. You're a citizen. We heard from Knox, a defense attorney in Texas. They will extradite you back to Texas so fast if you're a citizen. They don't care. But if you're an illegal, they'll protect you and let you out roam the streets. But if you're a citizen, you're second class. You also have to have a license, unlike illegal aliens like Kilmar. You can not traffic human beings across the United States. Nobody would want to anyways, but illegals can. FBI lets them go. Hey, have a nice trip. Take care. Slow down a little bit so we don't get to pull you over again. Don't call us again. And it never ends. Now, the DOJ came out and they published this. Here is what they wrote. All right. Courtesy of Pam Bondi, the U.S. Department of Justice, Office of the Assistant AG. From Brett Shumate, the Assistant AG, helping out Pam. This goes out to all Civil Division employees, courtesy of Brett. All right, everyone, listen up. This is your boss speaking. President Trump and Attorney General Bondi have directed the Civil Division to use its enforcement authorities to advance Trump's policy objectives. Now, this memo describes these policies and tells you DOJ lawyers to prioritize investigations and enforcement actions advancing these priorities. Couple things we're working on here today. On January 21, Trump came in, signed some executive orders. 1, end illegal discrimination and restore merit-based opportunities. He ordered all federal agencies to enforce our long-standing civil rights laws and combat private sector DEI nonsense. As part of this effort, Pam Bondi said get to work. Now, consistent with these directives, the Civil Division will use all available resources to pursue affirmative litigation. Okay, we're going to go sue you, combating unlawful discriminatory practices in the private sector. In particular, the Civil Division and Harmeet is authorized to bring suit under the False Claims Act for treble damages, baby, which is a lot, and penalties against any person who knowingly submits or causes the submission of false claims to the government. Major damages out of your booty. Now, this includes entities that receive federal funds but knowingly violate civil rights laws. Can't do it. In support of these efforts, the Deputy AG recently announced the Fraud Initiative, and we're going to go after everybody to advance these efforts. Now, they're also going to work on ending anti-Semitism, which obviously, yeah. So Trump issued Executive Order 14188, saying it's the policy of the United States to combat anti-Semitism vigorously. And Pam Bondi also said, we're going to prioritize justice for victims of October 7th as well. All right. Anyways, we move on. Protecting women and children. So they're also on January 20th, the president issued executive order saying we're now going to recognize 2 sexes, male and female. That's it. No 55 genders anymore. And we're going to prioritize investigations by the AG to investigate and go after the food, drug, and other cosmetics and hold those who are putting this stuff in front of our kids responsible. They're also going to go after so-called gender transition and online pharmacies that are illegally selling these drugs to the youth of America. And they're trying to evade state bans, and they're poisoning kids with hormones off internet drugs. Wild. They're also going to end sanctuary jurisdictions. Trump signed multiple directives to end these sanctuary cities, including protecting the American people against the invasion, declaring a national emergency at the southern border, protecting American communities from criminal aliens, enhancing public safety in the interior, and more. And Bondi said everybody should identify state, local laws, policies, and other entities that are impeding federal immigration enforcement. And we saw yesterday they sued Mayor Bass, the communist from the West Side. And then we get to the big one. Prioritizing denaturalization from the DOJ. How and which citizens that are currently citizens, how will they be identified and have their citizenship stripped? Because it wasn't born, they weren't born with it. They were naturalized. They came up through a process, got citizenship. We've now learned that that process was fraudulent. They misrepresented themselves throughout the proceedings, and you can't do that. You're a liar now. So the benefit that you got is now evaporating. Now, the Department of Justice may institute civil proceedings to revoke a person's citizenship. This is not new. Mamdani and these guys saying, strip my shit and deport me. It's not new. Did you lie when you came in here? If an individual either illegally procured naturalization or procured naturalization by, quote, concealment of a material fact or by willful misrepresentation citing the law, we read it, they quoted it verbatim from the first paragraph, saying the benefits of civil denaturalization include the government's ability to revoke the citizenship of individuals who engaged in the commission of war crimes, extrajudicial killings, or other serious human rights abuses. We can also remove naturalized criminals, gang members, or indeed any individuals convicted of crimes who pose an ongoing threat to the United States, and to prevent convicted terrorists from returning to U.S. soil or traveling internationally on a U.S. passport. At a fundamental level, it also supports the overall integrity of the naturalization program by ensuring that those who got their citizenship unlawfully by fraud don't benefit, including those who obtained it through concealment of material information that they don't have the benefits of unlawful procurement. Because if you have citizenship and you worked hard to get that, you came through your naturalization, you waited in line, you became a good American citizen, and you were honest and proper in your naturalization proceedings, doesn't it devalue your citizenship if somebody else can just lie in their process? And many liberals will say, no, so what? So what if they have citizens? So what if they don't? They need it. So what? Let them do it. But it's the same thing with standards. It's like, well, if everybody can cheat on the test, then does your A matter? Not really. It's because everybody else got A's, right? Even if it was fraudulently earned, it devalues your earning, what you've accomplished. Same thing is happening here. Now, the DOJ explains to us, the Civil Division of the Department of Justice shall prioritize and maximally pursue denaturalization proceedings in all cases permitted by the law and supported by the evidence. And we like to see that. First of all, it's a shall. That's mandatory. And it's a priority. And you shall maximally pursue these proceedings. Let's go. To promote the pursuit of all viable denaturalization cases available under the law and to maintain the integrity of the system while simultaneously ensuring an appropriate allocation of resources, the Civil Division has established the following categories of priorities for denaturalization cases. Several of them here. Cases against individuals are going to be denaturalized who pose a potential danger to national security. Oh, see, that's a broad one. Including those with the nexus to terrorism. Does writing rap songs for Hamas qualify? Is that a nexus for terrorism? If he says something like globalize the intifada or doesn't want to condemn that multiple times when Kirsten Welker is asking him, can you please just say I condemn it? Just please. We can all just sleep easily. And he's like, actually, no. No one's going to police my speech like Trump does. And won't refuse that. Is that a nexus to terrorism? Oh, I bet a lot of people would say the answer to that is yes, absolutely. Espionage? I don't know. Communism, communists. Unlawful export from the United States of sensitive goods, technologies, or information raising national security concerns. Yeah, I mean, if he's a communist sympathizer and he actually likes communism more than he likes capitalism, which he said openly, we played the clips of it yesterday, is it unfair to think that he might be colluding with Tim Walz and the Chinese or the Russians? I don't know. It would be a concern. Cases against individuals who were engaged in torture, war crimes, or other human rights violations. Don't know that Mamdani did that specifically, but his pals in his rap songs may have. Cases against individuals who further the unlawful enterprise of criminal gangs, transnational criminal organizations, drug cartels. You're gone. Cases against individuals who committed felonies that were not disclosed during the naturalization process, right? Fraud, you lied. Do you have any felonies? No. Oh, you do. Cases against individuals who committed human trafficking, other offenses of a bad variety, and violent crimes, all gone. Also, yes, cases who engaged against people who engaged in financial fraud under the PPP program. You remember that? Billions shoveled out the door, many by foreigners and illegals. Cases against individuals who engaged in fraud against private individuals, funds, or corporations, and cases against individuals who required naturalization through government corruption, fraud, or material misrepresentations, not otherwise addressed by another priority category. Also, cases referred to a U.S. attorney if they've got pending criminal charges, even if it doesn't fit within one of these other priorities. We got a nice catch-all right here in subsection 9. And any other cases that we determine to be sufficiently important to pursue. We got 2 catch-alls. Now, these categories are intended to guide the Civil Division in prioritizing which cases to pursue. However, doesn't limit what you can do. You retain discretion to pursue cases outside these categories if you think it's appropriate. The assignment of denaturalization cases may be made across sections or units based on experience, subject matter, and the overall needs of the Civil Division. So does Kami Mandami, does he qualify perhaps under subsection 1 with the nexus to terrorism, national security concerns, having a communist mayor running Wall Street? Is that a national security concern? We'll see where it goes. Now, here is another video that was released by Open Source Intel. This is what communism sounds like, and this guy's openly spouting it now all over the place, and many liberals lapping it up.
We can establish community land trusts to gradually buy up housing on the private market and convert it to community ownership. We can give tenants a right of first refusal to buy out their landlords when buildings go up for sale. And we can fully commit to a new era of social housing.
Social housing, where you can live under government dictatorial, tyrannical rule, and Letitia James can be in charge of your rent payments. So we've got that happening. Now, we also have the libs just flipping out. So Mamdani is making this argument that he's going to be arrested and deported, not for breaking any law, but for allowing terrorists called ICE members to go and invade the city. And that's obviously hysterical and nonsense. But this lady's also nuts. Here you see Breaking 911 shared this one over from TikTok. And we'll just play a little bit of this. We can't listen to the whole thing. But this is what they're saying is happening to illegals now. This is from the TikTok world.
Guys, they're throwing the deportees out of the planes and into the ocean.
What?
No, this is not a drill. No, this is not fear-mongering. They're shackling people, flying out into open ocean and throwing them out. Okay? The flight patterns, there's people
with
tracking
parachutes?
them on this app. The flights going out with the deportees, watching them go out to open ocean and circle back. A family in Italy saw 5 shackled bodies wash up on the shore.
Okay. So some Italian saw some body. It may be the mob. I don't know. It has anything to do with our people. But we talked about it. We talked about airplanes and, parachutes. Obviously, we would put parachutes on them. Not like used ones, not the new ones. They're very expensive and a lot of work and things like that. So we got plenty of old, hand-me-down parachutes. But we would put them in parachutes, obviously. Like, you don't just throw them out of the airplane. It's ridiculous. Just parachute in. It's a nice little adventure as they land back down in Guatemala. Tell their friends about it. Post it on Instagram and TikTok. Anyways, so Trump was also out there, and he says, if we're going to be getting rid of these citizens who are not really citizens, who are going to be denaturalized, let's just do it, baby. Here's Trump.
I'd like to say, a little controversial, but I couldn't care less. We have a lot of bad criminals that came into this country, and they came in stupidly. It was an unforced error. It was an incompetent president that allowed it to happen. It was an auto pen maybe that allowed it to happen, and it did happen. But we also have a lot of bad people that have been here for a long time. People that whack people over the head with a baseball bat from behind when they're not looking and kill them. People that knife you when you're walking down the street. They're not new to our country. They're old to our country. Many of them were born in our country. I think we ought to get them the hell out of here too. You want to know the truth. So maybe that'll be the next job that we'll work on together. But I think getting them out, we forget about them. We had some bad accidents in New York, and they're not accidents.
And we got people who are so-called citizens who broke into our country, maybe even became citizens because their parents came in illegally, violating our sovereignty, and then exploiting our good grace and empathy. The American people are very empathetic. We want to help everybody, apparently. Got white liberals who want to save all 8 billion people on the planet with the stroke of a pen because we can afford it. Tax Elon, and we can save the world. I have no idea what they're talking about. Wrecking the planet in the meantime. But Trump saying we're going to focus, along with the DOJ, on identifying those people, even if they're citizens or not. We'll just denaturalize them. If they were fraudulent, if they lied, if they came into this country and they're committing crimes, human trafficking and all these things, we're going to look into it. And if there's a basis under the law to disqualify them and to denaturalize them, we'll do it. And we've got to play hardball at this stage now. We've got tens of millions of illegal invaders in our country, seemingly running cities now, maybe taking over New York City as communists like they did with Mayor Bass in LA. You've got foreign elected officials in the Mexican Senate and president explaining that there will be repercussions if we don't cooperate with them in terms of remittances and more. And they're openly waving foreign flags on our streets saying that this is their territory. And go out there, cholos, and fight for your people, said the vice mayor of LA. Ridiculous. So we're happy to see the DOJ now step it up. If they want to call it, takeover of our cities, well, we'll just denaturalize you and throw you out anyways. So shout out to Pam Bondi, of course. We're going to keep our eye on this one, see if they want to apply it to this latest communist. Trump says maybe we'll just arrest him too. We'll see what happens next. Thanks for subscribing and joining as we do. All right. Good stuff on that one. Now, let's talk about Chuck Grassley and this bombshell from the FBI. A bombshell from the FBI. New emails released courtesy of Senator Chuck Grassley, where he explains the FBI was covering up election interference by the Chinese back in 2020. He posted this on X. He said, according to FBI records that we'll read through in the form of emails in just a second, Grassley says, the FBI headquarters, Christopher Wray and the rest of them, they suppressed intel about alleged Chinese interference in the 2020 election to avoid embarrassing Christopher Wray, who made conflicting testimony to Congress about the FBI, came to Congress and lied about Chinese interference. The FBI's job equals perform due diligence without politics in mind. Under Chris Wray's leadership, the FBI failed its mission. So we just translated Chuck Grassley. He's not done. He says, thanks, Director Patel, for working with Congress to provide these records to me. It's an important step to restoring American people's trust in the FBI and transparency, plus accountability. And so he posted much more on this over on his official Senate website. Some background on this, then we'll look at the actual emails because there were 47 pages of them that dropped. But he gave us some more background on exactly what is inside, assembling, and he says, all right, I'm Chuck Grassley, and today the Senate Judiciary Committee now released internal FBI emails revealing the FBI suppressed intelligence of alleged Chinese interference in 2020, and they did it to protect Christopher Wray. Then Christopher Wray went to Congress, and Grassley calls it inaccurate and contradictory testimony. It's a lie. He lied to Congress. The FBI or maybe he's going to say I have plausible deniability. I didn't know about it. They suppressed intelligence, so Christopher Wray couldn't know, and then he went to Congress, and then he didn't lie. The FBI declassified and provided the requested records to Grassley that we'll look at, along with the accompanying cover letter. Now, after Grassley initially received some information about whistleblower disclosures, we got more info. The FBI emails offer an inside look at the Bureau's decision to recall and suppress another report. The FBI came out with this intelligence information report. They said, uh-oh, Chinese are hacking our stuff. The report contained information from a confidential human source saying the Chinese government was producing tens of thousands of fraudulent driver's licenses to manufacture mail-in votes for Joe Biden. And we've seen those reports. You can just look them up. There's tens of thousands. They caught, I think, 20,000 of them in Michigan, another 16,000 in Cincinnati at the ports of entry. Chinese people coming in with tens of thousands of IDs. And they worked. They worked. The barcodes worked. According to the FBI, these allegations, despite showing initial signs of credibility, were never investigated, allegedly, according to the FBI's sudden and abnormal decision to halt the investigation and to bury the report's existence, preventing any field offices, as well as any other intelligence community elements, from accessing or studying the documents. The reason the FBI said that they were burying this, well, it's because the reporting will contradict Director Wray's testimony. So Wray went in front of Congress and he said there's no evidence of any foreign interference in the election. We're all sitting here. We all saw it happen. We watched the election get stolen. We're like, what the heck? This is ridiculous. We all knew something was wrong. All went to bed, saw the changes the next morning. Saw all the perversion, saw all the rule changes. We were pounding the table before the election even occurred because we were watching the laws get changed on this channel, showing how Mark Elias and the others were suing to change the election rules, change the election dates, change the signature requirements, change whether ballot drop boxes could be used or not. All of it done on an emergency basis without any proper approval from the state legislature, which manages the elections. stolen by judges, just like what we saw happen right now. Judges via injunction now saying that there's going to be harm and I have power to go and remedy the harm because I'm a federal judge. Same thing happened back during COVID. They just did that with the election laws. So all of that, Ray comes out, people ask him questions. Hey, was there foreign interference in the election? Everybody knew it. He says no evidence of it. Then they have to bury the rest of it in order to make it consistent. Now, these records smack of political decision-making, said Chuck Grassley. One way or another, intelligence must be fully investigated to determine whether it's true or if it's just smoke and mirrors. Bunch of emails came down, and let's get into some of them. Now, it looks like this was the cover letter that came over to Chuck Grassley from Marshall Yates, assistant director to the FBI, saying, all right, Chuck, you send us like 1,000 letters, so I guess we'll respond to one of them. You sent a letter back on June 17th. This is in response. Well, that's fast, man. 10-day response. That's nice to see from the FBI, finally. You wanted some information about a 2020 September 25th report called an IIR, Intelligence Information Report from the Feds. Now, in response to your inquiry, the Office of Congressional Affairs is committed to providing a substantive reply. We're going to attach them here. Now, following a directive from the FBI headquarters, the IRR was recalled, even though the IIR was coordinated and disseminated in textbook fashion, okay, from the emails. They're saying, here's a summary of what we're about to read. It was like textbook. Confidential human source, Chinese are rigging the election. Here's the evidence, sent it in. Boom. Somebody saw it and said, uh-oh. This IIR prompted significant attention throughout FBI headquarters. All the good FBI agents are like, what? China's rigging our election? For instance, according to an email requesting the recall, it was noted that the IIRAL sent out today is getting a lot of attention from all HQ divisions, which is why we need to recall it. And then the FBI just sat around and was like, no. China? What? No. Chinese influence? No. You don't remember an email? No. Certainly not. Now, the recall was issued to, quote, re-interview the source because he gave him a bad interview. Although the source was re-engaged and provided additional context to support the initial claim, the FBI headquarters maintained its position not to republish the report. So they went back, talked to him again, like, oh, crap, he said the same thing. Actually, he said it's even worse than we thought. One reason cited for not releasing this report, literally in quotes, they said the reporting will contradict Director Wray's testimony. The FBI leader will be made a liar if we tell people about this. So they hid it. They covered it up. So based on conversations with key individuals involved, Chuck Grassley tells us, it was conveyed that the recall of this report was abnormal. The rationale provided to Albany staff for the recall was that headquarters said the report was not authoritative enough, and that this characterization was met with disagreement by those in Albany. Other FBI feds were like, what? Looks pretty good to us. It was not authoritative. Remember, just like Hunter Biden's laptop was all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. They're just liars. Internal emails reflect that Albany staff had concerns that suppressing this new report would be dangerous if we cite potential political implications as reasons for not putting this out. Like, we're going to be busted, man, if we bury this because Christopher Wray is going to be made to look a fool. Emphasizing that it's not the role of the analysts to align intelligence with public testimony. That's Christopher Wray's problem. The intelligence says what it says. If he went out and lied about it or has to correct the record on it, that's what has to happen. We don't cover up the intelligence. That's not the answer. Albany staff further warned against the FBI assuming the sole role of gatekeeper of the intelligence community, saying, wait a minute, we're not going to tell the whole country about Chinese agents stealing our election from out from under us. Emphasizing that suppressing field-generated reporting could deprive other IC elements of the opportunity to weigh in on this. They could corroborate it or discredit it. Are you guys having Chinese people come in here with tens of thousands of fake IDs? Yes or no? Although an intelligence analyst requested further research and re-engagement with the source, headquarters ultimately decided no new report. Well, we haven't gotten anything new on that. even after the source was re-interviewed. Now, as seen in today's production of the emails that we'll look at, the source appeared to be reliable, and the FBI did not close the source for cause or lack of credible information at all. And additional emails show that the Foreign Influence Task Force, called FITF, did not approve the reissuance of the new report, citing concerns that's not authoritative, and there could be disinformation by foreign actors. They are the disinformation. It's the same crap as the so-called CIA experts, 51 of those liars, man, who all knew what they were doing and lied about it to try to rig an election. It worked. Potential for disinformation by foreign actors. You are the disinformation, FBI. However, other than a request for information to U.S. Customs and Border, we have found no information to indicate that FITF China aggressively investigated the reported information, right? So the Chinese agency that's supposed to look into, the American agency that's supposed to look into China did not do it, despite corroborating intergovernmental reporting and logistical investigative leads and more. Now, finally, because of this episode, FBI says to Chuck Grassley, the FBI headquarters, after all this happened, set a new requirement on the field for the 2020 election. Soon as this report hit everyone's inboxes and freaked everyone out, they said to everybody, all further notice, all raw reporting concerning the election will now require headquarters coordination. None of that was required before, but they wanted to keep tabs. If there were any election problems, don't email about it. Come talk to Christopher Wray. Overall, the records produced today that we'll look at reflect the broader sentiment within Albany and the field office that the recall decision and the resulting suppression of the support raised serious questions about the integrity of the intelligence and political pressures. And at this time, the FBI is unaware that any federal record preservation requirements were violated. Under record schedules approved by NARA, recalled or superseded intelligence reports may be removed from circulation, and they're not required to be permanently retained, right? So they just nuked it. While the underlying IIR was recalled, it was not permanently deleted from the Sentinel system. So it wasn't nuked. Likewise, at this early stage in our review, it appears that related communications were also preserved. Nevertheless, because we're at an early stage of our review, we're going to continue to look into it. But we did have some emails for you. And today's production contains minimal redactions to protect certain personal identifiable information, source identities, and other sensitive info. The FBI looks forward to continuing to engage with you, and we will accommodate as best we can. Thank you for supporting the FBI and our mission. Sincerely, Marshall Yates, Assistant Director under Kash Patel. So that went over to Grassley. Here's what some of the letters look like, and let's see what the order is on some of these. So yeah, so we're kind of working our way up on some. And let's see, those were September 20th, some of these dates. Okay, so this one was back in September. So we've got, it's sort of going backwards by month, it looks like. So here we've got one email. This came out sent September 25th, 2020. Okay, rewind the clock. That's like months from the election. 11:59 a.m. Here's the subject, serial. Sentinel serial. Chinese government production and export of fraudulent U.S. driver's license to Chinese sympathizers in the U.S. in order to create tens of thousands of fraudulent mail-in votes for Joe Biden. That's the subject, and it goes to everybody. Check it out. FBI here, whole list of people, all of them. Hey everyone, I spoke with someone earlier in case he receives inquiries from components at headquarters, but to make sure others involved in this report are in the loop, I got a call from two special agents in charge at FBI HQ who indicated this report that we just sent, this one, is getting highlighted within CD, and they had a few questions. They said, well, we're looking at it at HQ. Now, I was initially concerned that we may have missed some level of required coordination because it's a sensitive topic, but that wasn't the case. This guy's like, I thought I screwed something up because they're breathing on my neck on this, but it turns out no. He says the IIR, this report, was coordinated and disseminated in textbook fashion. I thought I was in trouble, but I wasn't. Like, we did this by the book. Though not required, they did request if we get further information about the election, we give them advance notice of our intention to disseminate this. He says, okay, That's weird. Well, that's easy. And blank or I can handle that. So sure, we'll give you a heads up. They also provided their initial assessment of the info if you want it. They haven't verified the alleged activity is occurring and believe it could be a part of their disinformation campaign towards the election. Just like the Russians too. These people are criminals. Something in the IIR process is definitely going well. If we receive a call within a few hours from the HQ about one of our reports, nicely done. Okay, shout out to this FBI agent. He's like, man, we crushed this. We got this great report, by the book, 10 out of 10, 5-star review, send it over to them. They called us back like in an hour. Great job, man. We just hit a home run. Sent this with all the links. You can go at fbinet.fb, sentinel. Whatever. Get your documents there in their little, LAN. So that's in September. Then we fast forward. Now we're in October. Got a redacted email. Don't even give us the date on that one. And then this is sent over here. So what is it? Like, thank you for this. Thank you for nothing right here. Thank you, Chuck. Or FBI. Draft election for the IIR for coordination. Classified by so-and-so, someone else. This guy's from FITIF, China. Now he says, draft election IIR for coordination. So September it goes out. They're excited. Hey, we just got called. Headquarters really likes it. Forward it over to FITIF, China. It's October. Election is right around the corner. Clock is counting down. Hey, thanks so-and-so. We'll discuss and get back to you tomorrow morning. May I ask for a quick call with Albany as part of the team here. Thanks. Unit Chief from FITIF. That was sent October 6, 4:40 p.m. Right before that, that was in response to this. All right, so he's responding. Thanks, I'll look at it. First letter he gets, hey, the following is an attachment of a draft report that was disseminated on August 25th by Albany. They sent it out to everybody. And then we had these people, Tanya Ugoretz and Nikki Flores from Counterintelligence. They recalled it. They said, uh-oh, their Chinese handlers called them and said, get that out. So Nikki Flores and Tanya recalled it. Now this week he says, I am acting for Albany. And because our CRO is currently on administrative leave due to COVID, so please ensure he's CC'd. Now, the source was recontacted that was in the original report and asked to re-verify the reliability of their subsource and assured the source handler they were very confident about this subsource's reliability. Like, no, he's like from China. The subsource's identity was captured in the source's files at this location, and this location. However, the first subsource is unwitting of the source's U.S. government involvement. In fact, the subsource is retired probably from Chinese intelligence in blank, where he was the blank, 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 blank. Now, a new context statement acknowledging the lack of knowledge regarding the ultimate source of the information has been added. So we added this to the report. It says, the source obtained the information from an identified subsource who claimed they obtained the information from an unidentified PRC government official. The access and placement of the ultimate subsource of the information is unknown, but it is being reported due to the nature of the threat, right? So it's like, it is several steps removed. But they're excited. If this addresses the concerns of these agents, like these two agents, Nikki and Tanya, they're like, no, that's not really reliable because it says the Chinese are going to help Joe, and we don't want that to happen. And if they are helping Joe, so what? Because we love Joe and hate Trump. So then they said, well, okay, fine, we'll clarify. We'll add another sentence that explains exactly the chain, but we still think it's reliable, and you should look at it. So if this addresses their concerns, let us know. Then I will proceed to get permission and approval prior to dissemination. Thank you in advance. Let me know. So then FITIF China, and I love to know these dudes' names, but says, okay, thanks. We'll discuss. Get back to you tomorrow. May I ask for a quick call. Not a lot of urgency there. Thanks. So whatever. He gets the email. It's late Friday. Another email. Redacted. Can't see anything. Another email. Redacted. Can't see anything. Here's one. September 28th. Okay, so we go back to September. So we had some October emails. Now we go back to September. And this one got sent on the 28th from Albany. Subject, recent release of counterintelligence. It says, please click below to review the routine CIIR blank. Based on a CHS reporting from blank collected by Special Agent so-and-so, identified and drafted by so-and-so, says, we are in receipt of a Chinese talent program recruitment invitation at a university. We got another report. Chinese government is producing U.S. driver's licenses. And a recall on that, right? Substantive recall came back on that email. And that looks like that was sent out, right? That might actually be the email or the sequence of emails. One gets sent, one gets recalled back out. Another one we can't read. Same date, September 28th. Looks like just more evidence that the emails were sent, 3:58. Hey gents, hope you've had a great day. Quick heads up. I met with blank today. She advised that his most recent reporting, specifically regarding the fraudulent use of driver's licenses obtained from an individual in China. I asked blank if they had read about the aforementioned fraudulent use of these licenses in a newspaper, and blank said no. Blank also provided the name of the person who provided this information. I'm going to document this information as a supplement contact report as opposed to a source reporting document. The reason for this is I want to continue as feasible as possible to safeguard this person's identity. In another email, also sent September 28th, earlier in the day, same day. Blank and I discussed this after the source made this reporting, as the three main things the source stated were this. One, China is trying to influence the election in favor of Joe, obviously. The threat of TikTok to U.S. national security, which they used probably to steal the election. They were using, probably making the IDs for those ballots off of the information that they siphoned out of TikTok. The China imported U.S. driver's licenses. They were documented. We've seen actual reports before the election of this. Like, why do we have 20,000 fake IDs coming in here? They had no idea. Given the specifics we received in the initial reporting, my first opinion was that the source wants to help and is probably supplementing his open reporting via open sources, and we're trying to follow and figure out what is happening. Someone else said this earlier in the day. I just got a call from a special agent. Not surprisingly, all raw reporting concerning the election will now require headquarters. That was not required as of last week, but now they know you know about the Chinese. One thing they asked is if blank could address with the source. Is the source or subsource aware of open source reporting about the seizure of thousands of licenses in Chicago? They knew about that. Further open sources began to suggest these driver's licenses were being used to vote fraudulently. Yeah. Says, I'm not at my computer right now. I checked the anonymous email account. No response from the source yet. I'll check again. If not, I'll try to approach him in person. These emails still coming out. This is September 25th now, so we're kind of bouncing around, not in a real organized timeline here. This one came out from Albany FBI to other Albany people. Pursuant to a conversation I had with blank, I'm forwarding you this for visibility purposes. And I had another conversation. I attempted to recontact this source, haven't gotten a call back. Hey everyone, I spoke with so-and-so earlier in the case. He receives inquiries from HQ. But just to make sure you're in the loop, I also received a call from two other special agents at the FBI HQ who indicated that this report was getting highlighted within the Central Division, and they had questions. I was initially concerned we might have missed some things, but no, this was textbook. They provided their assessment, and the rest we know. I had a conversation 2 to 3 times. And let's see. Yeah, here we go. October 1st. What's this? From Albany to another Albany. Says, all right, good afternoon, everyone. Now, I'm not trying to be a pain on this. They're still saying additional questions for this person's source about the Chinese hack. I'm not trying to be a pain on this, says some Fed. But after taking some time to think things over, I just want to voice my opinion and concerns on this issue to make clear I do not agree with the reasoning for not putting this out. We should be putting this out. Blank. Regarding the below, I'm not satisfied with the reasoning of needing a new interview and a new HQ review, as these things are everyday operational and administrative requirements. Now, most concerning to me is stating the reporting would contradict Director Wray's testimony. I found this troubling because it implied to me that one of the reasons we aren't putting this out is for a political reason. FBI sending this in their emails. Which goes directly against our organization's mission to remain apolitical and to simply state what we know. Man, shout out to this FBI agent. Likewise, at the field operational level, I do not feel it is our job to assess whether or not our intelligence aligns with Wray. Rather, we provide intelligence for people way above our pay grade, and he can make the call of whatever the FBI is seeing as a whole. Now, I also do agree that we have an obligation to not put out reckless information if we know something to be false. However, we're also not in a sole position to determine a reporting validity, as we only make up one intelligence agency and an incredibly small fraction of all the other agencies. Now, while it's entirely possible that our subsource did not get this information from China, it's also entirely possible he did. As just like in our own government, it's plausible that a blank would have a source within the government. And so recognizing that unidentified Chinese officials and the plausibility of information would not have access to the match selection, I elected to include the following context statements. I said, the acquisition of the source's information passed through a subsource claimed to be in contact with unidentified Chinese officials, leaving the veracity of the information questionable, but it is being reported because it's a serious threat. Now, per the report, the dissemination threshold is lower for threat reporting, right? This guy says, look, I looked at the manual. Dissemination is appropriate here, and I can determine it's a threat, and so I believe this allowed us to release this, and it highlights our lower confidence in the information. However, this statement was requested to be reworded to say, well, the information's actually bad, right? It's bad, came from a subsource, unidentified. This guy says, look, overall, if we want to have a disagreement about the meetings of how this stuff works, the rules, I'm fine with that. Now, my concern is that I think it gets dangerous if we cite potential political implications as reasons for not putting information out. Further, I think we are starting to drift too far into being the sole decider for the intelligence community about the information we gather. I think we should at least draft and submit this to the FBI to review. And if they decide they want to cancel it, they can. Again, I obviously don't make the decisions. I'm not sure if FBI HQ has provided you all with additional reasoning of why they told us to recall the report, but I just wanted to express my concerns. Happy to talk about this anytime. Very respectfully, a good FBI agent. It says a new 1023 will be needed. Again, the reporting, someone else said, right? So that came, I think, probably before that. The reporting will contradict Wray's testimony because Wray lied to Congress. Nope, no evidence of any of that happening. Yeah, it was. Lots more redacted here, as we can see. They're talking about deleting joint message exchanges. Let's take a look at this paragraph. Now, here's a new contact this morning that came in related to this report, saying this contact report is intended to serve as a supplement to the original report, which was the contact report related to another source report. Specifically, this supplements the chain of acquisition. So-and-so obtained this information from a China-based individual named so-and-so, who is approximately blank years old. Blank 3 had last contact with someone via telegram, no longer had the last telegram messages, said we did not use email, said not a member of the Communist Party. And so former title was so-and-so, lots of redactions. And so we talked to this person, they gave us some info. Scale of 1 to 10, how confident is the source information? 9 to 10, very confident. How trustworthy? I was able to collaborate and corroborate some information. Seems very knowledgeable. The source was found. The CHS called in a complaint about another case. And so more details on who this subsource is and how this all worked. But you can see lots of redactions here, but a lot of it is, a lot of emails back and forth showing us what was actually happening. Blank and I discussed this after the CHS made the report. One of the three things, I think we've already seen that, a couple of duplicate emails. Yeah, this one we saw. Nicely done and keeping everybody in the loop. Something is going well if we're getting these emails. So FBI knew what they were doing, right? They had evidence that the Chinese were rigging our elections, and they just sat on it, covered it up because it would make Christopher Wray look like an idiot or a liar either way. But now Chuck Grassley got his hands on the documents, and I would say it is a bombshell to the extent that it's in writing. I mean, we already knew the FBI was covering this up. I think this is the FBI's version of the laptop cover-up. All right, the laptop cover-up was sent out by those 51 liars who signed that letter, who were conducted and coordinating with the CIA. Now the FBI did the same thing. They had evidence the Chinese were interfering with our elections. They lied and covered it up. And we had a bunch of enemies inside our government who were doing that. And Trump got asked about another one called Alejandro Mayorkas. And today, someone asked about Alejandro potentially being prosecuted for his criminality. He was supposed to be a good steward of public affairs in the Department of Homeland Security, just like Chris Wray was supposed to be a good steward of the FBI. Both of them failed, or maybe they were successful if their end game was to wreck American institutions and water down the fabric of our nation. They were very successful in that. Now Trump is saying there will be repercussions for their damages.
Julio Rosas, Blaze Media, sir. A couple months ago, I ran into former DHS Secretary Mayorkas, and I asked him a couple questions about his disastrous handling of the border. He didn't like my questions. But the number one question that I heard from people in responding to my video was, why hasn't he been arrested yet?
Great question.
Obviously, you guys are cleaning up the mess that was made deliberately for the past 4 years, and so people want accountability. It's great to see that the border is secured, and it's great to see the state level cooperation. But I guess I would ask you, why hasn't he been held accountable, or anybody really?
Well, you know, pardons were given out by to many people, and they shouldn't have been given out. Like the Unselect Committee of Political Thugs was given a pardon because they destroyed all of the information from 2 years of hearings, and they should be arrested, but they were given pardons. Was he given a pardon, Mayorkas? Was he not?
I don't believe so.
Well,
sir.
I'd take a look at that one, because what he did is it's beyond incompetence. Something had to be done. Now, with that being said, he took orders from other people, and he was really doing the orders. And you could say he was very loyal to them, because it must have been very hard for him to stand up and sit up and talk about what he allowed to happen to this country and be serious about it. So he was given orders. If he wasn't given a pardon, I could see looking at that. In fact, why don't you take a look at it, Kristen? He was impeached, but yeah, it was just a fake impeachment. It was a fake impeachment. Why don't you take a look at it? I think he was so bad. They were all so bad. Look, it was the worst president in the history of our country. We've had some bad ones, but he was the worst president. But somebody told Mayorkas to do that, and he followed orders, but that doesn't necessarily hold him harmless. So take a look at it. Very good question, actually. Thank you.
Yeah, very good question. Why do the Republicans not have their own 2020 Select Committee to go investigate all of these claims? The CIA fraud they committed upon us, DHS fraud they committed on January 6th and at the border, and FBI fraud. Now in the emails, they knew the Chinese were bringing in tens of thousands of fake IDs, and they allowed it to happen. And Christopher Wray lied to the American people about it, and the FBI covered it up to protect him. So now, hopefully, repercussions are coming for all of these people who abuse their positions of power. No one's above the law. Select committees are valid, apparently, even if they're unlawfully constituted. Who cares? Hopefully, the Republicans figure out what they're doing and investigate the people who broke the law. All right, one more update, my friends. And then we'll hear from you and see what you have to say about all this. We got criminal arrests happening, courtesy of Kash Patel. Spies arrested in America. Kash Patel saying 2 Chinese nationals now in custody. We've got the criminal complaint that has been filed against both of these people, Yuan Chen and Liren Lai, and they both apparently were a part of the Chinese MSS, which is a top secret security entity that is over in China. We'll come back to the criminal complaint in a second, but here's what Kash said. 2 Chinese nationals were caught spying on our Navy and trying to recruit American service members for the CCP's intel service. Our FBI won't stand for it. We tracked them, we stopped them, and we're not done yet. Espionage on U.S. soil will be met with full force. Nice to see the FBI working on this rather than parents who protest at school board meetings, but it's because we got a new president. Now, this was one of the dudes who got nailed. Chinese national Yuan Chen, second from the left, is accused of acting as an agent of the Chinese government. And here he is standing on the USS Abraham Lincoln in January 2025. Isn't that something? Chinese spies standing on the USS Abraham Lincoln, and they got charged with crimes. And here is what one of the criminal complaints looks like. Filed against 2 Chinese spies, Northern District of California, which I think may be moving to Oregon, said that for quite some time, from May 2021 all the way until April 2025, these 2 charged with 1 count, acting as an agent of a foreign government without notice to the Attorney General. Busted. Jacqueline Enger, FBI special agent, is the person drafting this, and here's what she writes. Now, I submit this affidavit in support of criminal charges against these 2 Chinese agents, Yuan and Liren Ryan. Specifically, they were under direction and control of the PRC. She says, I'm a special agent. I've been working in Portland for quite some time, been there since March. And I handle a lot of things, including foreign espionage. And the facts in this affidavit are just the basics, and I reserve the right to supplement it later. So here's what happened. Writing, the defendant, we got 2 of them. Yuan Chen came back to the U.S. in 2015 in September. Came in on a visa, B1, B2 visa. Granted conditional permanent resident status, recognized his marriage to Associate 1, who they know, and was granted lawful permanent residence in December 2022 for a Chinese spy. Great job, guys. So the defendant, another one called Lai, is a PRC citizen who also resides in China. Also came to the United States April 1, 2025, another visa. He said on his visa, he does warehouse management, strategic planning, and personnel management at a company based in China. Now, as further described below, I have probable cause to believe that since at least as early as May 2021 all the way up to 2025, China's Ministry of State Security, MSS, defined below, they directed these 2 to carry out clandestine operations in the U.S., including dead drops, payments of cash on behalf of the MSS, gathering U.S. intelligence about U.S. Navy service members and bases, and assisting with efforts to recruit other MSS assets from within the U.S. military. According to the DOJ and database checks, no one registered as foreign agents, and that's illegal. Now, the government of the PRC conducts intelligence activities using a variety of sources, and they go through the MSS. Think of it like our CIA. The MSS handles civilian intelligence and collection for the PRC and is responsible for counterintelligence and foreign intelligence, as well as political security. They consist of a central ministry, provincial state security departments, and municipal state security bureaus. Collectively, broad power to do espionage both domestically and abroad. Among other things, they go after the United States. They want info on political, economic, security policies that might implicate them. They've got clandestine operations and more. The U.S. investigates these people a lot. As part of that investigation, the FBI obtained communications sent by intelligence officers to an individual known to the MSS as a former government employee located in the U.S. to coordinate cash payments with MSS from China. And they used covert communication tools, COVCOM, which are defined here, any impersonal communication system between an intelligence service and an asset or developmental that uses a proprietary system. So secret ways to communicate between the Chinese and their spies, which allowed for real-time two-way communication. And I wonder what they were using. The MSS typically used email communications to discuss less sensitive matters like scheduling COVCOM communications and operational activity. the Chinese MSS also used this tool, the Covcom tool, to engage in more sensitive communications. In the course of this investigation, I believe that the Covcom transmissions have replaced some in-person meetings due primarily to the reliability, timeliness, and operational security offered by the tool, right? So it's probably something they can't get into. And based on my training, like just ultra encrypted, just, handheld radios, just, talk to each other. Further, based on my training and experience, intelligence officers based in China did not travel to the United States due to operational risks. They relied on a network of co-optees who could easily travel to facilitate the operations. Now, in the course of the investigation, I have identified an individual whose identity is known to me, which is a co-optee of the MSS. I believe is an agent and high-level co-optee of the Chinese CIA. Since as early as in or about June 2015 all the way up to 2023, this person has carried out various operations inside the United States. They've traveled, they've delivered payments, they've tested and troubleshooted their Covcom systems, an entire secretive communication network, retrieve information, enlist other individuals. I believe that this co-optee is controlled by MSS officers, and so they know who this person is. Now, for example, on February 15th, the MSS emailed individual 1 saying someone's going to travel to the United States to pay $30,000. Sent a bunch of emails, met at the airport. FBI surveillance observed he was met by a person in San Francisco, and they briefly met. Now, person number 1's bank account shows that person number 1 got $30,000 in a wire transfer coming in. And I believe that was going to be passed off to this co-optee. And so we did. We reviewed the co-optee. Contact information is in Toledo, Ohio. An individual whose true name is known to me, I believe to be an MSS officer based on her applications, gave me the same info. Now, through legal process, I also got her contact list. 11 contact entries included 2 Chinese characters that were translated by FBI linguists to mean Ministry of State Security. Ugh, she put the CIA as a contact in there? Based on my training and experience and knowledge of this, I believe this is MSS. Of the 11 contacts that were specifically labeled as Ministry of State Security, 1 was for another officer of them. Same phone number as listed. They arranged to make payments, and so they're just following the money. Additionally, the co-optee also traveled. During one of their trips, FBI watched them. They watched them purchase a new SIM card and a laptop computer. Then they texted each other and more. And so therefore, there's probable cause to believe that they were in fact communicating and that Officer 1 was controlling co-optee 2. Okay, followed who was in charge. Now, based on my knowledge, there was also cause to believe that Ryan Lai was an agent. Since at least early 2021, believed that Lai, as Ryan, communicated with Yance through a PRC-based messaging application and served as a conduit between the two. These communications were noted and checked by linguists. Then, on May 4th, Lai asked Yuance, "Did you join the military in the U.S.?" Yuance explained that he knew individuals in all 3. I know some people who were in the sea, air, and land. Well, that means the Navy, Army, and Air Force. And also, Lai asked Yuance, "Are you a reservist? Do you have any bases near you?" In July, Lai asked Yuance to go find time to go to Macau or China, as they wanted to discuss something in person. There was a feasibility report. Lai explained to Yuance that he is really doing it, and he would have to go back to see our boss. Big projects demand cautiousness. Right when you can. And they're developing him as an asset. Now, based on my knowledge, I believe Chief was directing these people. And as described in more detail, there were also other dead drops. Someone left $10,000 in cash over here. And specifically during another Covcom communication, there was also a talk about $10,000 that was owed. Then on August 6th, MSS agreed to deliver the dead drop to a specific recreational facility in California, and there was an exchange that happened there. On January 8th, Lai asked Yuan in a message, how much would it cost on your side? Would 500 be enough to cover the cost when I send you 3,000? This is for salary. What is the budget? And they're talking about money. Then they're talking about couriers and doing a dead drop. Now, later that day, they then communicated about the logistics. They said, this is a major project assigned by the boss. Lai also warned that if you mess this up, your year-end bonus will be missing. The boss was the MSS. And if you don't get this done, you're not going to get paid. Now, they're also talking about push-to-talk messages, saying that they could buy plane tickets, put the money in a paper bag, transfer the money around. That morning, prior to the flight, there was directions, say, take a photo of the bag and the cash. Here it is, the bag and the cash. Search Dublin to see if there's a location for a store. Walk into the store. You're going to see me. This is what I'm wearing. They got surveillance footage of it all. Now, based on my training, I think that they were looking for lockers with combination locks. Based on my training with Forward Intelligence Services, they use combination lockers for operational security. They just give you the code, someone drops it off, someone goes and picks it up. And so based on my timeline, I think that the MSS was coordinating with someone to drop off 10 Gs at this locker. And here were some messages that were sent back and forth. This one came in from Gong Zhao. He said, okay, I'll wake the guys up, and explained. And they went bowling? Yeah. So there was a dead drop. License plate. 2 females entered location B and started bowling. Shortly thereafter, the FBI surveillance observed them place a backpack in the locker. And here's the conversation. Here's the lockers. It will be fast. You mentioned 4 o'clock. Would he or she be early or late? Would it be early? When it is not open or closed, remember how to turn it. I'm afraid you do not know how to open it. Yeah, after reaching 9, you spin to the right 23, followed by 45. He says, okay, you can go. Go get the locker. So she was just doing the codes, 9, 23, 45. Surveillance shows they were dropping off the backpack. Then she came, picked it up, told them the drop has been made. I believe that they were communicating on how to retrieve the dead drop. Now, they also tasked them with obtaining information about the Navy, right? This, I think, is a lot more juicy rather than this dropping money off. Now, this is what the money was for, presumably. But now the question is, MSS wants the Chinese to gather information about the U.S. Navy, saying, I know that based on my information and training, the PRC seeks blue water naval capabilities so that they can have control of the seas, and they're trying to get information from the United States about our operations. On May 12, 2022, there were files that were sent, 5219.pic, 5221.pic, 5222.pic. 1 base, 2 military port. Now, the FBI does not have the files that you want sent to Lai, but based on my training, I believe they were image files. PIC is an image file extension, and probably were pictures of a base and a military port. Then there was another message. Send me the Seattle pictures. Then Yuan sent 4 photos, which included the label Naval Base Kitsap Bangor. 3 of these 4 photographs contain metadata saying that they were took at the Kitsap Peninsula in Washington, right around the Navy base. Just a little tourist, yeah. So then he sent 4 more PIC files and other photos to other associates. Now, there's probable cause to believe that Lai directed Yance to take the photos at the Navy Center and also asked them to record a video. Can you take a joint photo when you come out again? Sure. The videos, which appear to be surreptitiously recorded, show Yuan and a Navy recruiter walking to the NRS Alhambra discussing the benefits of joining the Navy in Chinese and English, right? So this guy's going to meet with the Navy recruiter, just recording the whole experience. On or around July 11th, then Associate 1 sent Yuan these videos. And Lai asked Yuan, he said, where is this? He said, their office, the military. Lai said, you were able to get that? You were recording in his office? He's like, yeah, pretty cool. Responds that you guys wanted him to get a group pictures, but photos are not allowed, so the photos were taken in secret. Now, then Lai traveled to the United States, and they began communicating with Paul, another intelligence officer from China. On or about April 10, 2023, Lai alerted Yance that he had inadvertently left a cell phone inside a rideshare vehicle. Like, oh crap, the Chinese data's on there. Lai explained that he was asking someone to call to bring it back. Did it go through? Yance then told Lai that he was divulging state secrets, whatever that means. Later than 1 hour later, Lai notified Yuan, I got the cell phone back. So he said state secrets means, yeah, that the cell phone was connected to a foreign government. Don't want to leave that behind. Approximately 1 week later, Yuan and an individual using the name of Paul also started to talk by cell phone. Paul referenced the true surname of Lai rather than Ryan, confirming that Yuan was communicating with Lai given the recent exchange. I believe that they were transporting these materials for each other. Now, on or about May 3rd, Associate 1 sent Yuan 7 photographs. Again, inside the base NRS Alhambra with names and photos of enlisted U.S. Navy recruits along with other documents. Many of the photos included full names, programs, hometowns, and the recruiters' names for U.S. Navy recruits. Chinese spies getting the names of our military men and women. What are they going to do with those things? Our government should be so mad and freaked about this stuff. I mean, it's our military men and women that might have their whole names gobbled up by the Chinese. A majority of the recruits depicted in the photographs listed their hometown as China. So are they in the military? Associate 1 also took 2 additional photographs that appear to be taken inside the base. The metadata reveals it was there. On or around May 4th, Paul asked Yance if he could go shooting. Go shooting was code for communicating using online video game platforms. Less than an hour later, they went into a Chinese email service provider, transferred 9 videos, 9 images and more, sending them back and forth, and then talked about recruiting other people too. They said, could you recruit 2 other sources? One person was called Pig Boy. One else was called Gongzhou Boy. Said you could get potential bonuses if you could get them in our gang. For example, in reference to the individual identified as Pig Boy, Joe wrote Yuan, he says, about the numbers, we need to take one step at a time. We can't promise these prices right at the beginning. So 10 to 15,000. The leaders feel if they're quite good, they get more money. And we don't want to be exposed. And then, man, they start giving info about an employee. Navy employee 1 was an employee of the Navy. And that Yuan has been spotting and assessing Navy employee 1 to determine if they could recruit this dude. Okay, so one of our military Navy servicemen, it looks like, targeted by the Chinese. Yuan then sent Lai the name of the employee, said, I found out his mother is Chinese. His father and mother did not get along, and the mother was given custody when he was 8. That's why he uses his mother's last name. On or about October 2022, Lai sent Yuan a message stating home address. He's in San Diego, matched his home address. Crazy. In early March, Yuan, using the alias called Chingy Chan, posted publicly on a social media page. He said the Chingy Chan social media account is associated with a phone number. And here's the messages from Yuan. You don't have to go on the ship. Question? I have to. How often do you have to go? Every day. Navy employee 1. I thought logistic people do not have to go out to sea. From then, January 2025 till January 5th, Yuan and Associate 1 traveled to San Diego. They met with Navy employee 1. Then they took several photographs. One photograph depicted below is an escort badge, which says, shall not perish, on the USS Abraham Lincoln, now being boarded by Chinese spies. The other photographs include combinations of Yuan's, Associate 1, and others, all taking photographs. What a nice trip. Going on and standing on beautiful military equipment, taking pictures of everything. On or about January 5th, a contact card with another phone number of the Navy employee was found in the cell phone. And someone even reacted to the photo. Nice trip. Yeah, nice trip. Now, in the recording of another video, Yuan sought advice about the Navy from an unidentified male who worked in logistics for the Navy and was stationed in San Diego. Looks like two men sitting in a restaurant talking about this stuff. This spy is just pumping people for info. Then end up sending Paul from the MSS 8 messages and more videos, communicated about the meetings, talked about Gang Zhao Boy and Paul. And based on the foregoing, it looks like they were trying to establish the Chinese CIA, the MSS, a relationship with Navy employee number 1. And they even met the PRC. Then they traveled to the PRC with their kids, Yuans. Now, during the 2 months trip, they communicated regularly with Paul, sent all these messages, and continued to communicate about the upcoming meetings with more leaders, more back and forth from Paul to Yuans. You call the shots. Anyway, today, we won't talk about work as your wife is here, mainly to mend the relationship with your wife. She must be mad. Also, do we talk to her about salary today? How much should we say? He says, well, just be truthful. Actually, if she doesn't have questions, better not talk, LOL. I am worried she thinks you are working for us for free again, LOL. If she thinks that, it's not helpful when we contact you in a time of need. You solve this problem. We don't mind, emoji melting into a smile. Our biggest worry is it's inconvenient to contact you. Did you bring money with you? LOL. I told her I have money today, but to give it to her. Okay, see you in a bit. He says, Chief Surname was suddenly called out to a meeting in the next morning. She said we should leave it to hand to your wife in person. So just pay off your wife and we'll call it. Now, I believe based on my training that they were working together. Other meetings were arranged and they traveled to the United States. And so based on all of this, Jacqueline Enger tracked these Chinese spies and says they acted in the United States at the behest of a foreign government. They were from the MSS under their direction and control. And they are now arrested and charged with crimes courtesy of the new FBI, which is actually doing its job. Not worried about peaceful protesters on January 6th, worried about people who are pro-life advocates or parents who are showing up to protest their school board meetings. Now they're focusing on Chinese spies, and we're happy to hear about that. Now, Trump is explaining why they're doing so well. It's because high IQs. Now we can find these Chinese people, Chinese spies who are embedded in our government. Christopher Wray and the other morons at the FBI couldn't rub two bricks together. And now Trump says we've got big brains in our heads.
What about him?
Just give us a little idea.
Well, I just don't think he does a good job for the country. He's always a no. I call him Rand Paul Jr. He's always a no. Nothing constructive at all. I mean, just terrible. Thomas Massey from Kentucky. And nothing constructive. I don't think he's a very smart guy. Good education, but that's about it.
I guess what I should have asked is, to what degree are you trying to make an example out of him?
I don't care about it. I don't think about him. I mean, you know, when I oppose somebody, and for some reason the voters, almost always, they seem to go along with me because they know I'm working hard. I have a nice high IQ. They like that, you know. We like high IQ people. But they know I make good decisions. That's why we have that. Trump was right about everything, right? But, you know, I don't like guys like, they just keep saying, no, I vote no, I vote no. There's nothing. Let him do something. Let him get what he wants to vote yes. But if you look at his voting record, it's always against. He's going to have an opponent. He's going to have a big opponent, a good opponent, who's going to win. A poll just came out, and it showed anybody I endorse against Massey loses by 25 points. So he's going to be history, I think.
All right, so that's the president talking about high IQs, dumping on Rand Paul and Thomas Massey. And people apparently across the country who are in Trump's camp like him more than ever at the moment. And how could you not when you're having all of this success? You have the Hail Mary, threading the needle with Iran. You've got the border totally closed. They said that the tariffs were going to cause an economic meltdown. That's not happening. So CNN has to come out and say, yeah, Trump's doing pretty hot, and this train has no brakes on it.
I mean, any politician would like this number here, especially to see it go up. How about compared to other presidents who were Republicans?
Yeah, it's history making. It's history making. What are we talking about here? So why don't we look back? We have all the presidents, Republican presidents, going back over the last 35, 36, 37 years. What are we talking about? GOP, who strongly approved 5 months in. Look at this. George H.W. Bush, Bush 41, 46%. Bush 43, 59. You see Trump, the first term, 53. But look at this. 63%.
Yeah.
He beats all the other Republicans on the board here. And I was looking even back since Reagan. And get this, Donald Trump beats Ronald Reagan when it comes to the strongly approved 5 months. And of course, Reagan was coming off that high after that assassination attempt. So the bottom line is Donald Trump is making history with the Republican base. He is more beloved by this Republican base than any Republican base loved any GOP president 5 months in. It is history making.
The plan is working, my friends. So we're just going to continue to keep the train on the tracks, continue to use big brains and high IQs to identify the Chinese spies, charge them with crimes, and get control of our country once again. And we'll keep our eye on this one. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, my friends, what a beautiful day and a beautiful stream it has been. If you're just joining us, quick recap on what we got into today. We talked about this communist from New York, the Commie Memdani, who is now saying Trump is trying to attack me. No, we're trying to investigate if you're a fraudster and whether you should be denaturalized. And the DOJ dropped this memo, the 4-pager out that we spent some time on, mostly talking about this priority now of denaturalizing people who fit into any one of these categories. We read through those. We'll see what happens to Mamdani. Wouldn't hold my breath on anything happening to him, but of course, others, we'll see if they get cases brought against them. We'll see what happens to Mamdani too. Then we talked about the FBI and Christopher Wray dropping this. He calls them, and I agree, bombshell records. The FBI officially saying, we got hacked by the Chinese, investigated reports, disclosed it to all of the other FBI agents around the world, and they covered it up because it would have made Christopher Wray look like a liar. We read through the cover letter and the emails that the FBI agents were actually sending to each other and got to see what was happening. China in 2020, all covered up. Trump talked about Alejandro Mayorkas and maybe why charges should be brought against him. And then, of course, we talked about China and read through this criminal complaint brought against these 2 Chinese spies who were being facilitated and coordinated by the Chinese CIA, the MSS, to go spy on American servicemen and women, exploit their data to try to convert them into Chinese assets. And many people in our government still asleep at the wheel as this is all happening. But my friends, it's been a beautiful stream. And now it's time to hear from you. And thank you so much for being here. Happy Tuesday. I hope your week is unfolding beautifully. Thank you for supporting our show here. Welcome to new membos. Thank you for the donos, my friends. We couldn't do any of this without you. And we got some great comments that have come in today as well. And so this morning, it was funny. This morning, so I have this little squirrel friend who in the mornings will pop up right here. There's like a patio out here. And this little squirrel friend will come running up here and kind of look at the window and like look at me and then just run off. And I saw him through the corner of my eye this morning. And then he came out and was standing at the door. Squirrel. So anyways, she's Carrie B, what's up? Says, Rob, I just want to thank you for that squirrel moment. Yeah, he was right there. I was like, I just mentioned it. I was like, there he is. Squirrel. Hey, what's up? Thank you. Carrie B, thanks for clipping for us too. Rick is here. What's up, Rick? Thank you, Rick, for bringing in 10 new membos. Nalij is here. We got Michael Mathis. What's up, Samantha Richardson? Tina Marie, Bayou Dreams, welcome. Lucidin, LMC, Proxy Loxy, Vince Mom, and Shrug 65. Gifted membos in the house, courtesy of Rick D. Thank you, Rick, for doing that. And Rick is always breaking news here too. We appreciate Rick D. We got this one from the Outlaw Feminist. Hey, I recommend you all the time. Thank you for doing that. We really appreciate that. YouTube doesn't give us a lot of algorithmic love here on this channel, if you have ever noticed. The Outlaw Feminist. I recommend you all the time. Thank you so much. Socialism, communism, Islamism is hardest on women and children. I'm not wrong. I'm mean. It is interesting how it's like white liberal women believe in an ideology that's going to result in them being eliminated. It's the weirdest thing. I don't understand it at all. And it's like suicidal for their children too. It's like, what's going on in your brain where you think it's a good idea to take your son in to have him chemically neutered? How is that okay? And they're like, no, well, it's, my friends are doing it, so guess I'll do it too. Something's off, man. Thank you for that, the Outlaw Feminist. Glad you're not one of them. SD Goldstar Mom says, Saturday night, we were shredded by hail. SD Goldstar Mom has a great YouTube channel. Got ducks out there in rhubarb. Says, we were shredded by hail on Saturday. Saved the ducks, got stuck in a coop with them. Hail golf ball size and larger for 15 minutes. Crazy. Same storm leveled houses. Video on my YouTube channel showing the immediate aftermath. Yikes. SD Goldstar Mom. Man, sorry that happened. That sounds like a lot of damage and a scary situation. Hopefully your house is okay and your neighbors are good. Everybody's safe. Glad you saved the little ducklings who are probably also freaked out, man. Thanks for doing that. Zoji, sounds like and my friends, check out her channel, SD Goldstar Mom, right next door. Zoji, what's up? Sounds like the Republicans are trying to lawfare a democratically elected person out of his win, same as was done against Trump. Shocking that Rob is lapping it all up. Well, so I don't know that it's shocking. I think it's pretty obvious that we're pretty hardliners on immigration here. I do think that your point is well taken, and we made this point yesterday. I think you may have been in an after party or on a members only stream. I think that if they did remove his status as a citizen, that it would in fact result in him winning, actually, right? I think there is a martyr to this, a martyr component to this. So if the DOJ, which is why I think that it may not be wise for the DOJ to actually prosecute it, because I think it might just elevate him, right? It might make him a martyr and actually elevate him. Just like your point is right, it did to Trump. Now, I am also very unhappy with people who are violating the law, right? And so I think that if he fraudulently misrepresented himself, then he should be denaturalized and removed as a matter of law. Now, as a matter of politics, you might disagree with that and say, but we don't want people breaking the law and doing that type of thing. No one's above the law. They prosecuted Trump. It obviously backfired on them. I'm not saying that we should prosecute Mamdani or institute that, or maybe I have said that, but I don't think it's logically inconsistent. I think that Trump was innocent being prosecuted politically. I think this man is guilty, probably, who is going to be prosecuted in the interest of justice. And of course, I guess the person with the prosecutorial pen, it's in the eye of the beholder a bit, but Trump didn't commit any crimes. They said he did, but he didn't. And they could make the same arguments. And I guess we could duke it out in the court of law. We'll see if it happens. Ultimately, I don't think it's going to happen, Zoji. But if he was fraudulent in his application to the United States, there should be repercussions for that. I do believe that. Off-label podcast. Wife is helping get info on all officials that are up for re-election in the midterms. This project will be done faster than I thought, maybe at month's end. Well, that sounds like a great project and sounds like a lot of work. Shout out to Off-Label Podcast and your wife, Mrs. Off-Label Podcast. Sounds like a lot of work. I love broccoli. This broad use of denaturalization would turn U.S. citizens into glorified green card holders. I don't think so. Some of them. Yeah, the ones who were fraudulent and lying about it. Yeah, then, denaturalization would just be the process of undoing their fraudulent naturalization, right? If you are fraudulent in any contract, like, why should you be given the benefit of citizenship if you lied to get it? if you were fraudulent in the application there. Why should you just get that? Like, as long as you lie and you get through the game, you're good? Do we not have any standards at all? And citizenship, I think, is very sacred, which is why I don't want liars coming in and getting it, is the point. And I do think it is also different, right? I mean, citizenship is, it's a sacred thing. It should not be given out to everybody fraudulently for anything. If you come here illegally and drop a baby out and all these things. Look, our country is being siphoned off from us from a lot of this empathy, right? A lot of this, like, well, you know, all this stuff. You have communists who are coming in here and trying to take over the country, and we don't appreciate it. Thank you. I love broccoli. Spuds, happy fake country day to King Chuckles' Dominion, known as Canada, which is an illusion. Here is the history of Canada and how it never properly ratified their Charter of Rights and Freedoms. There goes all the No Kings festivities go right down the pooper from Canada. B-Man, what's up? So now they're blaming China when we saw everything real time. They're just trying to divert attention from the real crooks, from B-Man. Who would be what, them or our own CIA? I think the Chinese are a problem, obviously. I mean, they're infiltrating everything. May have stolen the last election in 2020. So I think they're a real problem. But our government is also a big problem too. James Anderson, what's up? 6 months as a membo. 2/3 of the way to a baby. Thank you, James. The Short Act and Hearing Protection Act being removed from the big, beautiful bill is crap. Regulations on firearms are infringing on my Second Amendment. And I've seen a lot of really bad reaction from our side on X about that. People are furious about some of the gun stuff, and rightfully so. Good to see you, James. Thanks for that one. What's up, former LEO? We usually took the handcuffs and shackles off before we sent them skydiving. Yeah, so that they can maneuver and have a safe landing with their parachutes, right? From former. Debbie O, hey, glad that Senator Schmidt clarified the Senate version of the big, beautiful bill does include the restrictions to Medicaid to preclude illegals, DACA, children of illegals. This is what I voted for, from Debbie O. Did Senator Schmidt say that? Yeah, this is the whole difficulty of the big, beautiful bill stuff. Nobody knows what's in it. And everybody's submitting amendments at the end. And everybody's saying stuff is in it that's not in it. And people are saying there's not stuff in it that is in it. And everybody's just lying about everything, if you haven't noticed. And nobody knows. So it's good to see Senator Schmidt kind of clarify that, because I heard differently this morning. And we saw a vote that looked different. So, you know, who knows? But thank you, Debbie O. Thanks for the very nice dono. Thanks for being a membo. We very much appreciate you. Fletch Towel. Fletch. Well, thank you for sending in this nice dono and this nice hippo in his office chair. Doing the big, beautiful spotlight is what he's doing. Heck yeah. Thank you, Fletch. We appreciate you. King of Biltong. What's up, my friends? Get your Biltong over there, biltongusa.com. He's got a promo code Robert. And Biltong, if you don't know, is air-dried with bold and savory flavors. So check it out, biltongusa.com. Thank you, Biltong, for the dono today. Off-label podcast. EO 14019 allows the government to register you to vote. Have data shows algorithm is going through people not registered for years, and it was ramped up around 2016. The IDs are the link. Yeah, that's interesting, off-label. And I think we were connecting the dots on this. I think, you know, TikTok is probably just validating your ID. Or if you have a picture of your ID in your photos and you give it access to your photos, it just scrapes that and sends that to China. Then they just print a new ID with your info on it and give it to their agents. Thank you, off-label. Tim Jake. Reference the FBI emails. The abbreviation for special agent is SA. SIA is Senior Intelligence Analyst. I was an SIA in the DOD for over a decade. Man, shout out. Thank you for the correction on that, Tim. SIA in the DOD. So, and thanks for watching the show, my friend. We really appreciate that. So we've got a former SIA for the DOD in the house on the channel. Thanks for correcting us, Tim, and for filling us out. We appreciate you. Hey, Rick D. Joseph Giordano, the trauma surgeon who led the team treating President Reagan, has died at the age of 84. Man, shout out to Joseph. May he rest in peace. Peace to his family. 84. Thanks for sewing up our president. We appreciate that. And I think that was that the doctor when Reagan said, "Are you a Republican?" He said, sir, today we're all Republicans. Tobo, I would be all for this. Albertans have been treated unfairly by their federal government, and there is a real movement to join the USA. From Alberta, the Canadians, amazing. Rick D, hey, wow, I have a GIF when I gift membos now. We love you, Rick. We appreciate you, man. Thank you, Rick. You're amazing. Spuds is here. Happy fake country day, Rob. I see a lot of anti-American drivel from our fake neighbors in the north. Unfortunately for the Laurentian elites, they have no clue or understanding that oil produced in Alberta must go through the USA before re-entering Ontario and Quebec. Once Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and others become part of the USA, they will have to get their fuel from the Russians. From Spuds in the house. Thank you, Spuds. This one came in from the Rubos. You know who they are. Look at this. Hey, thank you, Rob, for another great live stream. It's always amazing, informative, fun, educational, and you have the most awe-inspiring community on the interwebs. That is true. That last statement is true. And certainly in our lives, for which we are eternally grateful. Well, we're grateful for you, Rubos. We're excited about your new app. I'm working on an app. I'm vibe coding right now. I actually have it live now. I can share it with you. We'll do it in the after party. We're excited about your new app. Can't wait for to share it. Here's a little update on our storybook project, and we'll also share some images of the apps that I'm working on. Amazing. Amazing. So my father's miraculous rock soup from the Rubos. The Rubos are amazing people. You can also check out rubosaltshop.com. Get some amazing salt. Great photos. When Donald was 8 years old, his father taught him to cook with the folktale stone soup. Crafted in 3 parts, Donald, my father's miraculous rock soup transforms this timeless folktale into a deeply personal story about trust, faith, hope, love, and community, and blessings that are found in small things. Amazing. I can't wait to check it out and read it. The Rubos in the house. Yeah, the Rubos. Amazing. My friends, thank you for sending those in. Thanks for being just awesome and supporting our work here, and for the great conversation and the great fun. We, of course, appreciate you, and we are now going to go over to locals and members on YouTube. Stick around. We're going to have an after party. We're going to debrief. I'll show you the new app that I'm working on. It's in beta, okay? So don't judge me, but it's in beta. But I think it's pretty fun. This vibe coding thing is a lot of fun if you haven't played around with it. Anyways, so we will leave it there on the day. And of course, we are going to come back tomorrow. Before we wrap it up, we want to thank our amazing mods and meme smiths. We've got Donut and John clipping for us. Carrie B, K Bean, we appreciate you. We got Neuro D, Dog Digger, and Janik holding down the Rumble fort for us, keeping things nice and orderly. Thank you to Jigam, Just Rhonda, and Elliot for all the assistance. And my friends, thank you for being here. Thanks for subscribing if you haven't already done so that we never miss you again. We'd hate to have that happen. But we'll pause here for the evening, of course. Members, stick around. YouTube, go back to the main channel homepage or hang in the chat. I will send the link to the after party chat coming up. Locals, hang tight, and we'll be back. Otherwise, my friends, once again, thank you for being here and for being did I miss some donos? Oh, here we go. Yeah, here's one more update from the Rubos. And G-Men. Okay, we got 2 more, and then we're going to call it. G-Men. Yeah, the Senate can overrule the parliamentarian to add the provision re illegal aliens not receiving Medicaid. However, they chose not to overrule that tyrannical bureaucratic political hack on the Hearing Protection Act and the Short Act when it clearly does not violate the Byrd Rule. It is a tax stamp. It is being a tax was the only reason the courts upheld the NFA as constitutional, yet she says it's not budgetary. Yeah, okay. Tax income is not budgetary. Hopefully, the House holds the line on it. Man, we'll see. Thank you, G-Men, for that. G-Men always has good details on the Second Amendment stuff. Thank you, G-Men. Rubos, here are some screenshots of the app in progress. Whoa! You got an app for the characters? This is great. So I also have an idea for a novel, too. I've also fleshed that out, too. So I'm inspired by this. It's like you can talk to your characters. I'm like, well, that's interesting. So you have an app where you can talk to your characters. What a great thing. Stay connected. You're building out your app. And you got a little, is that a TypeScript error down there? A little TypeScript error. Gonna have to fix that. Claude Code can fix it for you. No problem at all. Shout out to the Rubos, man. That's awesome. Yeah, this vibe coding thing is crazy. It's pretty crazy. So they're chatbots. Okay, so but they're probably programmed in the format of the character, kind of like the Rob bot. It's amazing, super fun. Okay, so my friends, we're gonna hang tight. If you're a membo, stick around. We're gonna chill for a bit and have our after party. But it's been a beautiful stream. Happy Tuesday. This week is going to be incredible, and we're very grateful to have you here, going through it with us together as we solve all of America's problems together. And so we'll leave it there on the day. Thanks once again for joining us. Thanks for subscribing and liking this video on the way out. We'll pause here for the evening. We are coming back tomorrow to get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers. Eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through